It takes more than knowing about dining philosophers to be a great software engineer. This is episode 148 of the Soft Skills Engineering Podcast. I am your host, Jamison Dance.
I'm your host, Dave Smith.
Soft Skills Engineering is a weekly advice show where we answer all of your non-technical questions about the technical field of software development.
Can I just ask, what is the point of the dining philosopher's story?
What I really want to know is, what are they eating that is causing them to just furiously scrabble for forks?
Is it like an N-1 problem? There's fewer forks than there are philosophers? I don't remember.
See, I totally have that off the top of my head, but I can't tell you because that's not what this show's about. It's a concurrency problem, right? Isn't it about deadlocks? I think you're basically right, where there are fewer forks. And
I remember in college, studying this and being like, wait, is there supposed to be a solution to this? Like a puzzle that you're supposed to solve? And I never got the point. I know what semaphores are. I know how to use mutexes. I've done a ton of concurrent programming, but I never got the point of dining philosophers. Someone will have to enlighten me.
It won't be me. I'll just say that. Do you want to thank our wonderful patrons, Dave?
You know I do. Thank you so much to those that are contributing. I don't know if we've made this clear, but at certain levels you get a one-time shout-out, and at other levels you get a shout-out every single week, and the list just grows. So thank you to those who are contributing. This week we have a one-time shout-out from Dr. Ivo Robotnik, and the rest of our group contributing at the level they get a shout-out every week is Matthew Wodowicz, the Agile Ventures Charity, Zach Grannon, Luis Santos, Nick Cantar, Sean Clayton, Sonic the Hedgehog, Marais Rosau, Chris Hogan. Thank you so much. If you'd like to contribute, go to our website at softskills.audio and click Support Us on Patreon.
All right, I'm going to read our first question. This is from an anonymous listener. I've been an engineer for about 5 years, and in the last 2 jobs, rockstar programmers have made my life very difficult. I define rockstar programmers as ones with the ability to produce lots of code and implement features at a pace that dwarfs my own. In my last job, the RSP would constantly rewrite core libraries, and I would have to figure out his design and rewrite my code to adapt to the new design multiple times. In the current job, the RSP is very uncommunicative, but with his sheer productivity steers the project in wild directions that are always coming as a surprise. Half the time my work then becomes throwaway because I was working based on the previous design. Am I a slowpoke and I'm seeing a normal programmer as a rock star, or are these programmers just slightly above normal programmers, but creating lots of work for everyone else? Managers are completely starry-eyed at RSP, and so talking to the manager seems like a bad idea. What should I do?
Oh, wow. This is like the rockstar programmer metaphor, which I hate, actually sounds pretty good here, right? You've got this person. They do a lot of drugs. Yeah, they trash your room.
Yeah,
they're disrespectful of your code. They do whatever they want because they're the rock star. Yeah, next time I see a billboard that says, we're hiring rock star programmers, I'm gonna be like, that job's not for me.
Our mechanical keyboards have a special groove that you can fill with cocaine to snort.
Exactly.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
That's the environment for me, surely. So I am not a rockstar programmer. I have worked with folks that are very productive, and I've worked with folks that are also very disruptively productive. But I don't think I'm the person that would... I don't think I have just the sheer chops or pace to just crank out enough stuff to move folks' worlds around like this.
Yeah. I want to latch on. So I think you mentioned there's super productive programmers and then there's disruptively productive programmers.
Yeah.
And I don't think those things have to go hand in hand. You can be productive without being disruptive. And this particular rockstar programmer looks like is very disruptive. Rewrite. It says here that this RSP, I like that acronym, by the way, RSP. This RSP rewrote core libraries multiple times, and I had to figure out the new design and rewrite my code. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. You can be productive and crank out code, but if you're a library owner and you're rewriting the library such that it breaks your API, so other people have to rewrite their stuff.
Yeah.
That's just straight up irresponsible no matter how fast you're doing it.
Yeah, it feels like there's the technical output is far outstripping the communication output and coordination output, which makes sense. If you don't have to coordinate with anyone, you can go faster, it turns out. If you just don't have to maintain backwards compatibility ever, it would be faster.
Oh yeah, nothing slows down a software project like customers.
Oh boy, yeah. It's pesky customers. Why aren't there any folk star programmers?
Folk star?
Yeah, or jazz star programmers.
Just smooth jazz, responsible, easy listening.
Yeah. We need to branch out to other genres. Pop star programmers. I feel like pop star programmers might be pretty good to work with because I feel like they're a lot more polished and like broadly appealing and
The crowd pleasers.
yeah, they're not gonna like smash their drum set. Yeah, be a pop star programmer.
A PSP.
Yeah, and then I like that. So, what do you do if you're the hotel owner and your hotel room is getting trashed? I'm sure your music is great. Please stop throwing my TVs out the window.
Well, you certainly can't go talk to the band manager.
Hey, can you just get a nicer rock star?
Yeah. What a predicament, though. It's like, what do you mean our most productive, awesome programmer needs to slow down? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the manager response, right?
Yeah. I could see getting addicted to, if they are disruptive but check off a lot of things, I could see that being addicting as an engineering manager or a product manager or something where it's got these longer term effects and it kind of hurts morale and causes other folks a lot of work. But boy, does stuff really move through fast. And it would be hard to recognize the longer term damage that this is doing. I think it's especially hard if no one brings it up too.
In the X-Men universe, there's that one character who can shoot laser beams out of his eyes. His name is Cyclops.
Yeah.
As a kid, Cyclops had a problem because these like laser beams would just come out, crazy out of his eyes in every direction. He couldn't control them. And then Dr. Charles Xavier gave him special glasses so he could like focus the energy. That's what I think this programmer needs. Like you have this raw talent that's just spewing out in every direction in the form of high velocity code changes, but he needs focus, right? Like needs to be able to focus that laser beam in such a way that it's unharmful to your teammates while still being productive and useful for the product and your customers.
I think about one of the most productive developers that I ever worked with. And they were so productive because they could both produce a lot at an enormous rate, but also do it in a way that wasn't disruptive to the rest of the team. And they were really good about maintaining API compatibility and communicating and documenting changes and also planning things out. So kind of letting us know up front, like, hey, this giant thing is going to get done pretty fast, but here's kind of when it's coming and how. And I feel like they could have been a rock star and just done everything and made life hard for the rest of us, but they weren't. They were purely a net positive because of that. They were careful to communicate around it, and that feels like what's missing. There's no communication. Like code is not the only artifact that you produce as a developer.
So I have a question about this super productive developer. Are they looking for a company to join at the moment?
I don't know.
We can talk.
I'll go ask them. Yeah, I mean that. But I've worked with more people that produce a lot of code and change everything all the time than I have who are like responsibly super productive.
So in the end, do you think that the net productivity of the team comes out to like a positive number as compared to if this person were operating at more normal rates, or do you think that the disruption actually exceeds the net productivity from this rockstar programmer?
I don't know. I don't think I have a way to quantify it. I think it probably depends, which is just a great answer because I don't have to share any knowledge. I think it probably
you can never be wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I think it depends on the situation, though. There might be times when maybe the team's okay with it, but if it causes maybe folks bounce out of the team or your product gets, there's no coherency to its design. That's probably not a word, but now it is.
It has evolutionary design, I guess, is what you're saying.
Yeah. If it's just like what's a good metaphor for this?
If it's grown tentacles and in places it shouldn't have tentacles.
Did you ever watch Fantasia?
Yeah.
Isn't there a scene where the Earth, when the Earth is forming in one of them and the mountains just like jut out all over the place? Am I making that up?
I can't remember, but yeah, let's go with it.
But I feel like that's kind of the design you could end up with in your architecture if you have someone who's just like recklessly productive like this, where suddenly they just slam a bunch of code down on one thing and then move on to the next thing and it doesn't grow in an orderly way.
Yeah.
So I think that's a potential danger too.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do about it though, right? This is all like, is it good or bad? But what do you do if you're working with one of these people?
Yeah, this is a great question. And indeed, the question that was asked of us.
Oh, maybe we should answer it.
I think now is a good time to answer this question. So I think that it takes a very capable manager to recognize that you have this kind of a situation and to coach this person into a focused, productive, and unharmful pattern. And if your managers think that this person is just perfect and that they are doing everything right, I think you're going to have a much, much harder time getting this situation fixed. And if that's the case, I'm just going to assume that's the case, I think you're going to have to go to this person and somehow quantify the derivative effects of their rapid work. And this is, by the way, this is not just a good programmer, a fast programmer. This is the kind of person who seems to disregard the pain they cause others, like rewriting core libraries, takes the project into new directions that no one saw coming, and it's a surprise, then causes us to throw away work. If you can bring that information in an easy to digest way to this programmer and say, I just want you to be aware we had to throw out this many hours of engineering work because of this decision. And if you had instead consulted with the team first and gave us a heads up about the direction we were going to go, we could have prevented going down these dead-end paths that we did.
I feel like I'm forming an image of them in my head that's based on only this question, but I wonder if they're the kind of person that just loves to code and everything else they see as kind of a distraction.
Could be.
So writing up docs is pain that is avoided by diving into the code, or there's all this communication overhead that goes into changing and building software, and it feels like they just don't want to do any of it.
Yeah.
And that feels irresponsible to me.
Absolutely.
I think if you're going to make large changes, you should be expected to communicate about them. So I think it's fair to go to them directly and say, hey, we need to work together effectively, and we can't when you make sweeping changes like this without talking to us beforehand.
Yeah.
And I think you have to make it clear that you're okay with them being productive and kind of working on things that they're excited about, but it just has to not come at the cost of the rest of the team. It's not your job to like toil away in their shadow while they hog all this glory by just changing all this stuff in front of you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Have you ever heard of the concept of an externality in economics?
I have, but I want you to explain it.
I think that's what's happening here. This programmer is having just a great time. Cranking through the code, making all kinds of progress, getting praise from management, but causing externalities, which are effects that they're negative effects that other people shoulder as a result of this person's work. And I think if you could make those externalities clear to this person or to management, then I think you could have a chance at fixing the situation.
And that's why I think it's not out of the question to talk to management about it, not in a tattletale way, but just to say, if they're so enamored with their output, that means that they do not notice the effect that they have on the rest of the team.
That's right.
So you could just say, hey, like this task is late, and it's late because we had to throw away all our work because of all these changes, and make those, because to your manager, that's not an externality, because they care about the productivity and output of the whole team. Yes. And the individual programmer might just care about getting their stuff done. But the manager, like if the team is less productive overall, then that's something they should care about.
That's a really good point. And you know what else? I think that if you come to this coworker and say, look at all this extra work you made me do and all this code I had to write, they might not see that as a problem, because like they love writing code. And if they had to
like, yeah, you get to use my new awesome design.
Yeah, like this is so cool. Like you get to rewrite all your old crap with this new thing. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
And also they probably run at a very, very fast pace. And so to you, it's like, crap, this is going to take me 4 days to unravel this mess. They would be like, oh, that's going to be like an awesome afternoon,
Yeah.
And so I think it might be hard for them to see the overall productivity of the team as having issues. And I got to admit, like, confession time, this can be me on your team. I am like this sometimes. I write code. I love writing code. I write very fast, I think, and I crank stuff out, and I want to move fast. And occasionally I have caused my team pain this way.
What happened?
Let's see. I mean,
like, did anyone ever address it consciously, or did you just kind of not do that anymore?
Well, yeah, I'm a little more sensitive than it sounds like this person is. Like, I can tell when issues have happened. Like, for example, my hastiness caused a bug just in this past month where I was making some really big refactoring changes because I was dissatisfied with the way this code was written, and someone else was working in the same code base. And out of courtesy, I let them merge first, and I dealt with the conflicts, because that's kind of how it goes. The person who merges second, they have to deal with all the conflicts. Well, because it was such a big change, and because I was resolving conflicts in a somewhat foreign code base, I resolved one wrong and ended up shipping a bug that took this person like a week to find. So, a huge mistake on my part. And the reality is I should have sat down with the team team and talked through it and actually like described the problem. And then we could have worked on it together in smaller chunks to do the refactoring. It would have taken longer, but we probably would not have had that bug. So that's just one example.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think it illustrates the point that you can go fast as an individual, but to go fast as a team, the only way to do that is by communicating.
Yeah.
And if you skip those steps, I think you go slower overall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
so there you go. I'm sorry.
I have never been a rockstar programmer. I'm more like a contemplative philosopher programmer.
Struggling to get that fork off the table.
Yeah, just slowly thinking.
Are you a writer? Do you tend to write your ideas down on paper before you implement them?
I've started doing it a little bit more. Yeah.
So you're just more of a thinker beforehand. Like naturally you just sit
back
and think.
Thinker implies that the end result is like really well thought out. And I can't claim that's always the case. Sometimes the only thought in my head really is like, It's not like, which of these trade-offs should I make and which is best? It's just,
Yeah, it's just,
I'm, you know what I am? I'm a leisurely programmer. That's what I am. All about the leisure.
What's the metaphor? If this guy's a rock star, what are you?
I am a fisher programmer. But one of those fishermen that doesn't even like to catch fish. I just chill on my boat. It's got like speakers and a little umbrella and
a little like ukulele that you can play sometimes.
Yeah.
All right. Rockstar programmer, fisherman programmer.
With our forces combined, we will conquer.
All right.
Let's answer our next question.
Okay.
Do you want to read it?
Yes, I do. Okay, this one comes from an anonymous listener who says, how do you feel about sharing salaries amongst your coworkers? I'm about to have my yearly review, and I get the sense that my raise, which has already been promised to me, will be underwhelming given how stingy the company has been previously. That is simply a hunch based on previous experience and the fact that our team budgets have tightened up. Recently, a coworker let it slip what his salary is, and though I don't like playing the comparison game, it made me feel underappreciated. I discovered that he was making the same salary I was, but for lower quality of work and less contributions to the team. I've heard some developers in other companies advocate for sharing salaries amongst their peers, but I'm not sure it's a good idea. Will sharing my salary and encouraging my coworkers to do the same allow for myself and my coworkers to better understand our value and help us negotiate raises? Or will it simply foster resentment and division?
You had a Freudian slip there.
Yes, I know. I was just thinking, will it get better raises or just more rages?
Oh, man. It's a tricky balance. I think sharing salaries will, in the long run, result in you making more money. And in the short run, it will result in you being less happy. And because raises are usually not just given by you knowing that there's money out there, right? Like there's some process. And if you're earning an amount that you're earning, unless the company has this guilt, they're just waiting for you to find out that you're underpaid and like ready to make it all up by paying you. Even if you find out you are underpaid, I don't think they'll just automatically give you a raise if you come and say, hey, I'm underpaid by this much. Please hand over more money.
Mm-hmm. Even if you can point out that a lower productivity employee is making more than you?
Yeah, I don't think that automatically would get you a raise. Do you?
I don't know. I mean, if I were in the decision-making seat and didn't have to consult with an HR department, it probably would get you a raise.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of machinery built into companies sometimes to make it so that it's not one person that needs to be convinced. It's like finance and budgets and approvals, and it's that thing where you're buying a used car and the salesman has to go back to their manager.
Yeah.
Like, so even if you're a really good negotiator, they don't just sell you a car for cheap. I guess maybe at a small company where there are fewer layers, then it's easier to just say like, here's the deal. And then there's one decision maker and they're convinced. But I think a likely result is you'll find out that you do not make enough money, or the other person will. And then there won't be an immediate resolution. So you can either work long-term to resolve that through a promotion or the raise cycle or raise process, which is sometimes works, but sometimes does not. Or you'll just find out and know more for your next negotiation cycle. And often the main time you negotiate is switching jobs.
Right.
So I guess that's why I feel like it'll probably cause short-term unhappiness and longer-term more money.
That is very insightful. Maybe you'd be better off asking your peers what they make at other companies. I think maybe they would have less resentfulness in the short term that way.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky though, because people should know their value and they should know what they're worth. It's weird that you could be making the same amount of money you made yesterday and suddenly be upset about it.
Yes, exactly. Nothing changed except your knowledge.
Yeah, and if you've been underpaid for a long time, that could cause some really bad feelings, right? Like you have this wave of resentment where you've been taken advantage of for a long time.
Right.
I mean, you should know about that, I guess. But I don't know that knowing suddenly gives you the power to change it immediately. It certainly gives you the power to change it longer term, though.
I think there are probably cases where people have been taken advantage of in that sense because they just didn't know what to ask for.
Oh, yeah. That happens all the time.
Yeah, and I've seen this where people have actually come to me when I was in a management position to offer salaries, and the top end of the range they asked for was at the bottom end of the range that we were prepared to offer. And what do? You're like, well, it's like they've told me what their wildest dreams are, and I can make that happen. Or I can, it's like it's at the bottom end of our range, but like in a company's shoes, you're very hard pressed not to just give them what they ask for. I think it takes a very special company to say, we need to pay you what the market says because you don't have an understanding of what the market is.
That happened at Koali, a company I worked at a while ago. There was a developer who came in and asked for some money in the interview process, and my boss was like, you'll get this much more, actually, because he like super lowballed himself.
Oh man. Like, and as a percentage, what are we talking about here?
I don't know the numbers. I just know he negotiated himself down and then it was like a reverse negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So actually, I don't know. That was when it was much, much smaller though. Like there were a handful of people at the company.
Right.
So I don't know if that would persist through growth and.
So I used to think that it was in every employee's best interest to know their pay, all the employees' pay, because it could only result in upward mobility for all salaries, generally, on average, for the average salary. And since companies never give pay cuts, I mean, as a rule, generally they never give pay cuts.
Not in tech.
Not in tech.
Not yet.
One day.
Yeah.
It can only move up, right? So the employee always wins. But then you have these situations where it's like, I make 2% less than this person who I think I perform better than. And is 2% really going to make a big difference in your life? Probably not. Yes, there are people for whom it will, but probably not. So now all you have is resentment, right? And even if you got that 2% gap closed, like, is it really going to make a huge difference for you? Probably not.
I'm just thinking about this. This is hard because I want the world to be fair. I want people's pay to reflect the value they provide. And also I want everyone to agree on everyone else's value.
Yeah.
So like there's this global ordering of pay and value that align. And that's not how it ever works.
Nope.
And it's influenced by so much besides how good everyone agrees you are at your job. And people's opinions differ too.
Exactly. So like how are you ever going to get consensus?
Yeah, you could think that someone else does nothing and you deserve way more. And they could think the opposite about you. Like, this is the way it should be because that joker doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
But
okay, here's my opinion. You should have enough data points from the broad market, whether it's from the market that applies to you, whether it's from your company or for others, to know what the market currently values productive software engineering at, that aligns with your experience/value that you bring. You should have that information. You absolutely should. Now, whether you get that from your coworkers, for whom you have a lot of baggage and opinions and all this extra context, that I think is a question that should be set aside. But to actually benefit you, you should know what the market is. And I don't think it matters if you know how much your coworkers make, because like I said, like all that's going to do is lead to this comparison game where you have resentment.
You don't think it matters, or you don't think you should?
I don't think you should. No. Okay, there's so much nuance here, and I'm sorry I'm not doing a good job. If you're at a company where it is the culture not to disclose your salary, you should probably opening that can of worms to learn everyone's salary is not going to benefit you that much. Instead, your goal should be to understand the market, because that's what you should be going after. And if you can get there through other data points, I think you should, because then you can get that data without the resentment. That was long-winded. I don't know. Did that make any sense?
It does make sense. I just feel sad about the outcome, because it feels like I can totally see the resentment it would bring, but isn't some of the most relevant data about your peers? Like,
yeah,
you know the most about their skills and output and kind of relative importance in the company. So that feels like it'd be a pretty powerful source of data too.
It feels that way, but in my experience, the biggest raises I've been able to negotiate at companies have been from data points that I shared from other companies. Because at the end of the day, that's your leverage, right? When I go to my employer and I say, Bob over there doesn't do very much and makes more than me, I think that doesn't speak as strongly as Bob at this other company, which, by the way, I'm interested in joining, makes more than me. Now you got leverage, but like, what are they going to do about a disparity among salaries within their own company? There's no leverage there for you as a negotiator.
Yeah, there's also,
You need to spend some time in your fishing boat on this one, I think.
Yeah, I do. I do need to spend some time on my fishing boat. So I am not actually the contemplative programmer that just thinks Zen thoughts all day. I actually get stuck in rabbit holes comparing trade-offs forever. And that's what I'm doing right now about this question too. Like, it's just, there's so many trade-offs, and how do you value one above the other?
Yeah.
Because I really do think, I think about the times that I found out what coworkers made. Did I ever find out? I found out what some coworkers made in one of my jobs, and that was at a small startup. And I didn't use it to say, my coworker makes this much, please pay me this. But I did use it to ask for more money in like annual performance reviews. Mm-hmm. And because it was Wild West startup land and we had funding and everything was good, it went relatively smoothly then. So I did directly benefit from knowing how much my coworker made. Wait, did I? No, they left. That's what it was. They were leaving. They told me how much they made. I found out it was more than I made, and kind of like use that information.
You knew that number was within the boundary of reasonable pay, so you knew you could go for it.
Yeah, but I didn't walk around knowing what my coworkers made. I don't think I've ever done that, actually, like knowing what several of my coworkers have made while we work together. It's kind of been I've known a couple folks that I've worked with, and I've known more when I've left as well, or someone else has been leaving.
Yeah, me too.
And since that's what I did, that's the right answer. I'm going to say...
The fisherman has spoken.
Yeah. Use it when you don't have to work with them anymore.
that's
so you don't have to worry about the resentment.
See, that's a good point. I really do think the resentment is a problem, and you got to try to mitigate it.
Yeah. So basically, if you work at a place that just churns through developers, you'll have the most accurate information about salary. Yeah, because all the context around how much are you worth and what kind of work have you done, it kind of goes away when you're going somewhere else or they're going somewhere else, and you can just be open about it. And then you'll be like, well, that was weird, or whatever.
Yeah. All right. Well, so
that's my middle of the road recommendation.
You should just get all your coworkers to quit, and on their way out, ask them how much they were making.
Yep. That's it.
Problem solved.
All right. What can people do if they want their own problem solved?
Go to softskills.audio and click on Ask a Question. Feel free to share as much information as you want. You can be anonymous or not. Thank you so much to all those who have asked questions. We are sorry for those we can't get to, but we promise to eventually before the universe dies its heat death.
Yep. All right. Catch you next week.